જય શ્રી સ્વામિનારાયણ. શું તમે જાણો છો કે જાન્યુઆરી 2026માં એક ભવ્ય અને વિશેષ મહોત્સવ આવી રહ્યો છે? શ્રી સ્વામિનારાયણ ભગવાને સ્વહસ્તે રચેલો ગ્રંથરત્ન એવો આપનો શિક્ષાપત્રી ગ્રંથને 200 વર્ષ પૂરા થાય છે અને તેનો દ્વિશતાબ્દી મહોત્સવ જાન્યુઆરી 2026માં આપણે સૌએ ઉજવવાનો છે. શિક્ષાપત્રી માત્ર એક પુસ્તક નથી, જીવન જીવવા માટે માર્ગદર્શન આપે એવો ગ્રંથ છે અને સારા કાર્ય કરવાની પ્રેરણા આપે એવો ગ્રંથ છે. જીવન જીવવાના મુખ્ય નિયમો અને મર્યાદાઓ સમજાવે છે, જેથી આપણે આપણા જીવનને શ્રેષ્ઠ બનાવી શકીએ. આ વિડિયો દ્વારા શિક્ષાપત્રીના દરેક શ્લોક અને તેના અર્થને સરળ અને સ્પષ્ટ રીતે ઇંગ્લિશમાં સમજાવવાનો પ્રયત્ન કરીશું.
Jai Shree Swaminarayan. Did you know something very special is happening in January 2026? It is the 200-year anniversary of the Shikshapatri, a sacred book of commandments written by Swaminarayan Bhagwan himself. The Shikshapatri isn't just any book, it's a guide full of life lessons to help us live happily and do good in the world. It teaches us how to be kind, honest, and take care of ourselves and others. In this video, we're going to explore all the slokas or verses from the Shikshapatri and their meanings in English, so everyone, young and old, can learn from this treasure. Jai Shree Swaminarayan.
Verses of Meditation, Slok 1. At a time when spiritual knowledge had completely degenerated and ignorance had created an internal obscurity throughout the world, and its travelers, souls born on earth as human beings, had lost their goal, the attainment of salvation, and became confused about their aim, and the Vedic commandments were being misused to torment one another, the Lord of the imperishable lustrous abode, Shree Swaminarayan, mercifully manifested and presented to us this Shikshapatri, which is the booklet of guidance that leads one to salvation. Each day I meditate upon this Shikshapatri. There was a time when people forgot the true path of moral life and lived in darkness. Lord Swaminarayan mercifully gave the Shikshapatri, which is our guide. Our lives became brighter with the knowledge and guidance of the Shikshapatri. I meditate upon the Shikshapatri daily as it shows me the right way to live. O Shikshapatri, I meditate upon you, who has been incarnated onto the earth to purify its inhabitants and wash away the filth from those who wallow in the muddy pools of sansar, worldly pleasures, and have become soiled, and thus remove their internal darkness, ignorance. People get stuck in worldly pleasures, which leads them to do wrong things. The Shikshapatri shows the path for those who seek purity and peace in life. The Shikshapatri removes the darkness of ignorance from our hearts and minds. The Shikshapatri is comparable to a magnificent wand of kajal, eye ointment made from the soot of a lamp, with which to banish away the internal darkness. It must be studied with the utmost of respect in order to attain the divine light of spiritual knowledge. Kajal helps keep our eyes clean and healthy. It clears any blurriness and sharpens our vision. The Shikshapatri is like kajal for our inner vision. It clears our path in life and makes it better. Just as kajal protects our eyes, the Shikshapatri protects our life with wisdom. The Supreme Lord of Akshardham, who himself has assumed a human form, has presented this Shikshapatri, which is addressed to all his disciples living in different regions. You, O purifier, have been included by Sri Shatanand Muni in the scripture Satsangi Jivan. O Shikshapatri, you are our mother, and you liberate us from bhav, cycle of birth and death. Each day I meditate on you. This Shikshapatri is like our mother, freeing us from the cycle of birth and death. I meditate on Shikshapatri every day. Shikshapatri is a life of guidance for everyone. I take the shelter of Shikshapatri, which is comprised of the words of Lord Swaminarayan and incorporated into the scripture called the Satsangi Jivan by Sri Satanand Muni. Shikshapatri is the words of Lord Shree Swaminarayan. I am taking refuge in Shikshapatri. The Shikshapatri is the greatest of all the divine nectars. It has been extracted from the vast ocean of milk that exists in the form of all the scriptures. Salvation is acquired by those who drink this nectar. It is recorded that Lord Sri Swaminarayan took the essence of 365 ancient Hindu scriptures and summarized them all into the Shikshapatri. The Shikshapatri is the essence of all the scriptures. Those who drink this nectar attain mukti, liberation. Lord Sri Sahajanand Swami, the protector and resort of all sons, has first offered the nectar in the form of this Shikshapatri to Mukundanand Swami and other disciples. Virtuous people who partake in drinking this nectar become empowered to annihilate all fiendish tendencies. We offer worship to this Shikshapatri, the nectar, which is only medicine to eradicate the diseases of bhav, cycle of birth and death. Shri Sahajanand Swami has given Shikshapatri to all his santos and bhaktos. The devotees who follow this nectars get the power to destroy unrighteousness. This Shikshapatri is nectar. This nectar is the only medicine to remove us from cycle of birth and death. We perform puja daily to the Shikshapatri. I pray to Lord Narayan, Swaminarayan, who has assumed the guise of a Muni, sage, and has composed this collection of instructions with the intentions of bestowing eternal welfare to all the beings that have fallen into the ocean of sansar, worldly pleasures, to always reside within my heart and constantly provide me with inspiration. I pray to Lord Sri Swaminarayan, who has written these divine teachings. I pray that Lord Swaminarayan will always remain in my heart and continue to inspire me. I pray to Lord Swaminarayan, who is the son of Dharmadev and the author of this Shikshapatri, who is granting his loving affection to all his disciples through his enchanting smile and lotus face, to reside within my heart. Lord Sri Swaminarayan, son of Dharmadev and the author of this Shikshapatri, whose sweet smile is very beautiful, I pray to such Lord Sri Swaminarayan Bhagwan always remain in my heart. The Shikshapatri is another form of Shri Hari, Lord Swaminarayan himself, which radiates its divine luster over the globe and offers auspicious bliss to all. The Shikshapatri is the form of Lord Sri Swaminarayan. The Shikshapatri spreads light in all places of the world. The Shikshapatri gives us happiness and joy. O Shikshapatri, you are reverently prayed to by multitudinous disciples. The cause of all causes, Supreme Lord Swaminarayan has manifested you. You are the granter of all desired fruits. One and only one desired fruit is eternal salvation. As such, you are another form of God, and I repeatedly worship you with love and veneration. The Shikshapatri is respected by many scholars. Lord Sri Swaminarayan is the cause of all causes. The Shikshapatri is the giver of all desired fruits, the greatest of which is salvation. I have manifested this nectar in the form of the Shikshapatri for the benefit of the world, and it is worthy to be served reverently by all my disciples each day. Whoever obeys these commands of God and devoutly studies the Shikshapatri will attain the supreme, eternal, and magnificent divine Akshardham, abode of Lord Swaminarayan. Lord Shree Swaminarayan has published the Shikshapatri for the welfare of the world, and if every devotee serves this Shikshapatri with respect every day, reads it with respect, and follows the instructions, that disciples will attain Akshardham.
Jai Shree Swaminarayan. With all my heart, I meditate on Shri Krishna, who resides in the divine abode Vrindavan, with Radha on his left and Shri residing within his heart. I, Shri Sahajanand Swami, am writing this scripture in Vrittale. This is the scripture containing my commands and is directed to all my followers living in regions both far and wide. Ayodhya Prasad and Raghuvir, the sons of my brothers born of Dharmadev, Ram Pratap and Icharam, respectively. All my brahmachari, lifelong celibates, such as Mukundanand, and my gruhastha, those with family associations, disciples such as Mayaram Bhatt, my female disciples both married and widowed, and my sadhu, sant, such as Muktanand.
These are my divine blessings. They should be read with the remembrance of Lord Narayan, Lord Swaminarayan. These commands have been sanctified by the scriptures and serve to protect the faith. You all should deeply contemplate as to the purpose of writing this Shikshapatri. It is meant for the benefit of all souls. Those who abide by sadachar, good conduct, as described in the sanctified scriptures, this Shikshapatri will attain happiness both in their current life and their next. However, those who transgress and defy the rules of sadachar will suffer immense pains both in this life and in their next. Therefore, all of my disciples should live life devotedly, adhering to these holy commandments with the utmost of attention, but must never contravene them. My followers must never kill any being. Minute creatures such as lice, bugs, insects, etc. should not be harmed intentionally. Animals such as goats, deer, rabbits, fish, etc. should never be killed, even for the purpose of religious sacrifice or ceremony. Ahimsa, the ideology of non-violence, is the essence of all scriptures, and thus its violation is unethical in every respect. The killing of another person is forbidden, even for the attainment of wealth, women, or sovereignty. Committing suicide by the consumption of poisons, by self-strangulation, or by any other method is prohibited, even if it is carried out at a holy pilgrimage site. Suicide is still not excusable, even in a fit of anger or in repentance of a sinful deed. Eating meat is strictly prohibited under any circumstances. An offering to a deity or the remnants of a ceremonial sacrifice should never be consumed if it comprises of meat or alcoholic ingredients. The mutilation of your own or another's body must never occur, even if it is intended as atonement to your own unworthy actions or in revenge of another person's shameful deeds. This kind of disfigurement is still not allowed if it occurs whilst in a state of uncontrolled excitement or anger.
Stealing even the smallest of items such as fuel, wood, or flowers is not allowed, even if it is intended for some religion-related purpose. All my disciples, male and female, must never commit adultery. Vices such as gambling and the consumption of intoxicants, for example, hemp, are prohibited. My disciples must never take food or water from a person of a lower class status than themselves, even if it is prasad of the Lord. However, in Jagannath Puri, accepting prasad from persons of any class is allowed. The fulfillment of one's own selfish aims or aspirations are no excuse for making false accusations or defaming another's character. The use of such offensive language is prohibited.
My disciples must never slander or even listen to blaspheming of the following: Devta, deities, Tirth, pilgrimage sites or sacred places, Brahman, people of God, Pativrata, chaste women, Sadhu, saints, or Vedas, holy scriptures. The Naivedya, consecrated offering from a deity to whom meat or alcohol offerings are made, or where animals such as goats are ceremonially sacrificed, should not be eaten. When passing a Mandir, temple of Shiv, or any other deity, my disciples should bow down reverently, and in this way pay respect to the God within the Mandir. My disciples must never ignore the duties that would be expected of a person of their own class of religious standing. They should never adopt the rituals of another religion or any other heretical or self-fabricated ideology. One must avoid listening to the sermons that could destroy their devotion towards the Lord or impede upon the observation of devotional practices.
My disciples must never make a statement that could cause harm to them or cause the humiliation of another, even if it is the precise truth. They must sever associations with the people who show no appreciation of their good actions. Bribes must never be accepted. They must never associate with the following types of people: thieves, sinners, addicted to drugs, etc., the deceitful, those infatuated with passionate affairs and frauds. My disciples should have no association with those who use a pretext of their devotion or knowledge to perform sinful deeds such as hankering after women, wealth, or sensual pleasures. No credence should be given to any scriptures in which the glory of the Lord or his avatar, incarnations, has been blatantly or cunningly disputed. My disciples must never drink water or milk that has not been adequately filtered, nor should they bathe in the water that is infested with minute creatures.
Medication that comprises of meat or alcoholic constituents should not be used. To ensure that this will never occur, if the ingredients of a medicine are unknown, it must not be consumed. The scriptures and customs have dictated where it is wrong for bodily functions, excreting, urinating, spitting, etc., to be performed. My disciples must abide by these conventions. My disciples should only use the entrances and exits of premises that are meant for that purpose. No building should be occupied without prior consent from the owner. My male disciples must never listen to a sermon given by a female. They must never argue with a woman, the king, or his officials. My disciples must never insult the following persons: one's guru, those held by society in high esteem or high social standing, learned scholars, or someone who is armed with a weapon. No
action should be taken without clear prior thought and rationale about the consequences of that deed. However, religion-based duties should be performed immediately without hesitation. Any knowledge that has been gained should be conveyed to others so they may also benefit. My disciples should remain in association with sadhu. When visiting one's guru, deity, or the king, one must never go empty-handed. Care must be taken to ensure that one does not commit any act which could breach the trust of others. Praising oneself or one's own actions should be avoided. Any garment that leaves the body indecently exposed should never be worn. Dharma has provided guidance for devotional practices and duties. The practices adopted by my disciples should remain within those prescribed. My disciples must never relinquish their devotion unto the Lord in fear of criticism or on account of another's ignorant ideology. When my disciples visit a mandir on a daily basis or on religion festival days, each gender should remain segregated and thus physical contact between them should be avoided.
Those of my disciples who have received initiation into the faith by their guru, the Dvij, twice born, should always wear a double-stranded kanti necklace made of wood or tulsi, sacred plant. My male disciples should imprint an urdhva upright U-shaped tilak, auspicious mark, on their forehead, chest, and both upper arms, biceps region. This tilak should be made using gopi chandan, yellow-colored soil, or the chandan sandalwood paste mixed with saffron, which remains after its use in the worship of the Lord. In the center of the urdhva tilak, they should impress a chanlo, a round mark. This chanlo could be made of the same chandan as the tilak or with the auspicious red kumkum that is used in the worship of Radha and Lakshmi. My honorable disciples who do not fall into these higher classes of social status should still wear kanti made of tulsi and impress an urdhva tilak just as other classes do. My disciples who remain unclassified into these categories are permitted to wear a double-stranded kanti made of sandalwood or another wood. They should impress a chanlo but no tilak on their foreheads. My disciples who fall into the Brahman class and who have a family tradition of adorning a horizontal tilak on their foreheads and wearing a necklace made of rudraksh are permitted to continue this custom. My followers should recognize that Narayan and Mahesh are identical because the Vedas have determined both as being Brahma. The scriptures have stipulated that certain restrictions which normally apply may be relaxed during times of adversity. My disciples can resort to such diminution of values, but only at times of severest of calamities. My disciples should awaken each day before the sun rises and immediately offer a prayer to the Lord before attending to their bodily functions. Seated in one position, my disciples should brush their teeth and then bathe using clean water. One clean cloth should be then wrapped around their waist and another draped around their shoulders.
Then they should sit upon a clean mat or covering on the floor facing a northerly or easterly direction and perform achman. My male disciples should then adorn the urdhva tilak and chanlo. Females should only impress a chanlo using kumkum on their foreheads. Widows should not adorn a tilak or a chanlo on their foreheads. All my disciples should then perform mansi puja. My disciples should then offer prayers and ceremoniously
worship the Murti image or idol of Radha Krishna, Lord Swaminarayan, and repeatedly chant the name of the Lord. The length of time and the rituals adopted in this worship may vary from person to person, depending on their individual capacity. Only after this may they proceed to conduct their own worldly affairs. Even my disciples who have acquired high accolade within the satsang, Atma-nivedi disciples such as King Amrish, must perform these daily rituals. They are allowed to proceed with their other daily affairs only after conducting the Mansi Puja ceremony. These Atma-nivedi disciples should perform these daily ceremony, puja to a murti of the Lord made of stone, meadow, or shaligram using chandan, flowers, fruits, etc., according to the time, place, and their own capacity. They should then repeatedly chant the 8-syllabled mantra incantation of the Supreme Lord. They should sing kirtan, hymns, or read religious scriptures in accordance with their own abilities. Those who are not versed in Sanskrit may chant the mantra of the Lord or recite incantations in praise of God. All food must be offered to the Lord first, and only then can it be eaten. It should be considered the prasad, consecrated food of the Lord. In this manner, my Atma-nivedi disciples should dedicate every aspect of their lives in the devoted service of God. The Supreme Lord is described as Nirgun, without any qualities of Maya. As a result of the close association of Atma-nivedi disciples with the Lord, they too become relinquished of worldly qualities and acquire this same distinction. Atma-nivedi disciples must never drink water or eat vegetables, fruits, etc., without first offering them to the Lord.
Because of old age or a physical disability, if any of my disciples become incapable of performing their daily rituals of worship, puja, they must entrust their murti to another responsible devotee to perform these rituals on their behalf. They should continue with their mental worship of the Lord, depending on their own ability. All murti are worthy of reverence. However, only murti that have been sanctified by the Acharya should be used in worship. My disciples must attend Mandir every evening, where they should sing kirtan praising the Lord. They should listen attentively to the discourses of the Lord's Leela, divine biographical episodes, and his tenets. On special celebration days, the singing of the Lord's praises should be accompanied with the playing of musical instruments. My disciples must conduct their daily lives in adherence with the aforementioned instructions. Depending on their abilities, they should study the religious scriptures in Sanskrit or in their own mother tongue. All tasks should be assigned to the most appropriate person, having taken careful consideration of their skills and abilities. My disciples who employ servants must ensure that their basic sustenance, food, clothing, etc., is provided adequately depending on one's financial situation. People should always be addressed in a manner that would befit their virtues and status. The most appropriate salutation should be used only after carefully considering the time and particular situation. My disciples should always demonstrate the utmost of consideration and humbleness. When approached by a guru, king, an aged person, a tyagi, sadhu, scholar, or a tapasvi, ascetic, my disciples should stand up and suitably welcome these respected persons.
in the presence of a guru, god, and a king, or in their assemblies, my disciples must never sit in a posture that could be considered disrespectful. For example, sitting cross-legged inappropriately or with knees bound with a cloth.
My disciples must never argue with their acharya. They should offer reverence to the acharya by donating food, money, clothing, etc., according to their own means. On hearing of his arrival, my disciples should immediately go to welcome the acharya from the village outskirts. On his departure, they should accompany the acharya to the edge of the village. Any act that contravenes dharma, the obeying of sadachar, good conduct, must never be performed even though it may seem immensely profitable at the time. Only dharma is truly able to bestow real prosperity. Under no circumstances should dharma be abandoned. My disciples may follow the examples of great individuals in history, but only if their actions have adhered to dharma. No irreligious or unworthy acts that these historical figures may have conducted should be emulated, using as an example to justify one's own disobedience of dharma. Care must be taken never to expose another person's secret or private affairs. My disciples should ensure that others are given due respect and propriety depending on their individual merits. They should not all be considered equal. During the Chaturmas, the 4 months of the monsoon season, all my disciples must observe extra vows. Those who are unable are permitted only to observe these vows during the month of Shravan, the 10th month in the Hindu calendar. The vows should comprise one of the following: 1. Listening to the divine biography of the Lord. 2. Reading this divine biography. 3. Singing kirtan in the praise of God. 4. Performing Mahapuja. 5. Chanting the name of the Lord. 6. Reciting the verses depicting the glory of God. 7. Performing pradakshina, reverential encircling of the Lord's murti. 8. Performing Shashtang Danvat Pranam, 8-fold prostrations before the Lord's murti. During these months of Chaturmas, an oath must be taken to perform at least one of these devotional practices daily. All disciples must also observe the vows of Ekadashi, 11th day of each half of every month. Such vows must be also observed on the birthdays of Krishna, etc., and on Shivaratri, and these occasions should be celebrated with great ceremony. Sleeping during the day of a fast is forbidden. Performing sexual acts during fast invalidates the vow. In a similar manner, sleeping during a fast also invalidates vows.
Shri Vithalanathji, son of Shri Vallabhacharya, and the advocator of the philosophy of Vaishnavism, has given clear directives about how to observe religious vows and festivals. My disciples must observe all vows in strict adherence to these procedures as described by Shri Vithalanathji, and should adopt these methods for their own devotional practices. All my disciples should visit Dwarika and other sacred places of pilgrimage. They should give aid in charity to help the needy according to their own individual means. The following 5 deities should be held with the highest of reverence: Vishnu, Shiv, Ganpati, Parvati, and Surya. If they become inflicted by a spirit or ghostly apparition, my disciples must chant the mantra of Narayan Kavach or the Hanuman mantra, but they must never resort to using the spells, mantra, or incantations of any other deity who has lower status than these. During a solar or lunar eclipse, my disciples must stop all other activities, purify themselves, and chant the mantra Swaminarayan of the Supreme Lord. When the eclipse is over, they should bathe fully clothed, so that the clothes are also washed and purified. My Gruhastha disciples should give charitable donations according to their means. Tyagis should perform puja to the Lord. My disciples from all four social classes must observe sutak, restrictions that are applied when a birth or death occurs within their close family, in accordance to the rules stipulated in the scriptures. Brahman should possess the qualities of calmness, self-discipline, forgiveness, and contentment. Kshatriyas should be brave, courageous, confident, etc. The Vaishya should be engaged in agriculture, trade, commerce, banking, and other such professions. My devotees of the Shudra class should serve the other three classes. At appropriate times, my Dvij disciples should perform rites in strict adherence to the religious scriptures and in accordance to their own monetary capacity. These rites include the 16 purification ceremonies performed throughout a lifetime, daily rituals, and shraddh, making ceremonial offerings to the deceased ancestors or relatives. All my disciples must appropriately atone for any sins that they have knowingly or inadvertently committed. The four Vedas, Vyas Sutra, the Puran known as Srimad Bhagavat, the section of the Mahabharata called Vishnu Sahasra, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vidur Niti, and the Sri Vasudev Mahatmya section of Vishnukand that is found in the Skanda Puran, one of the 18 Puran, and the Yagnavalkya Smruti section of the Dharma Shastra. These are the 8 scriptures that I have chosen and which have special significance. It is in the best interest of my disciples that they listen to the recitals of these 8 scriptures. My Dvij disciples should study and give discourses about them. When resolving issues about moral conduct, social customs, or repentance, one should consult the Yagnavalkya Smruti with its Mitakshara commentary from these 8 scriptures. To understand the glory of Krishna, the 10th and 5th sections of the Srimad Bhagavat should be referred to. When seeking guidance about bhakti, devotion, yoga, uniting with the Lord, and dharma, religious conduct, one should consult chapter 10 and chapter 5 of the Bhagavad, Yagnavalkya Smriti respectively. My spiritual philosophy is contained within the Sri Bhashya commentary given by Ramanujacharya about Vyas Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita.
The sections from these 8 scriptures that describe the Lord's Murti and which give guidance about Dharma, Bhakti, and Vairagya should be given a greater emphasis than the other sections because the common teaching of all these scriptures is that devotional practices to the Lord must be in accordance to Dharma. The definition of Dharma as described in Shruti and Smruti is to live with Sadachar, good and moral conduct. Bhakti is defined as an immense love for the Supreme Lord that is combined with the genuine understanding and knowledge of His greatness. True Vairagya is when you have no affection for anyone or anything except for the Lord. Jnana, spiritual knowledge, is defined as an understanding of the form and characteristics of Jeev, soul, Maya, worldly illusion, and the Lord. Jeev exists in one's heart. It is infinitesimal in size and is a fully conscious entity. It pervades throughout the entire body and knows about its every aspect. Jeev has the special qualities of being Achhed, Abhed, Ajar, and Amar. Indestructible, impenetrable, imperishable, and immortal. Maya comprises of three qualities, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and it is dark in complexion. Maya is the power of the Lord, and it is this Maya that makes us consider our physical bodies and our family relations as truly belonging to us. Just as Jeev lives within our hearts, the Lord resides within Jeev by virtue of his powers to know everything. The Lord does not have any restrictions. He is almighty and able to do whatever he pleases. The Lord repays the deeds of everyone in an appropriate manner. The Lord, Shri Krishna, is the greatest entity. I admire him the most. He is the cause of all other incarnations and is thus truly worthy to be worshipped. When Shri Krishna is united with Radha, he should be referred to as Radha Krishna. When he is with Lakshmi, he should be known as Lakshmi Narayan. When he is with Arjun, he should be known as Nar Narayan. Similarly, when Shri Krishna is with Balabhadra, he should be called using the appropriate name.
Sometimes Shri Krishna is seen with Radha alongside him. At other times, because of her immense affection for the Lord, she merges within him. The Lord should then be considered to be alone. Because of these differences, one must never consider Shri Krishna as having multiple forms. If he appears in a different guise, such as in a form with 4, 8, or 1,000 arms, that is because of his own will. All people upon this earth should worship this Lord. They must acknowledge that only ardent worship can lead them to their ultimate aim, salvation. The greatest reward for the virtues of the scholars is devotion unto the Lord and the satsang, the association with his Sankalpa Murti, Sant and devotees. Without these, even a scholar will have to face degeneration and wander in the cycle of birth and death. My disciples may meditate to the Lord, his incarnations or his Murti, image or idol, but never to humans or other deities, even if they are disciples of the Lord who have attained a high spiritual status. My disciples should have faith that their souls have become Brahmarup, have the same qualities as the Lord, and that they have become segregated from all three aspects of their body, Sthul, material body, Sukshma, invisible body, and Karan, eternal body. And having realized their great status, they should worship the Lord in an appropriate manner. A narration from the 10th section of the Srimad Bhagavad should be heard daily. If this is not possible, its recital must be heard at least once every year. Those who are educated should read this section daily. Again, if this is not possible, it must be read completely at least once every year. The Purusharan of the 10th section of the Srimad Bhagavad, the Vishnu Sahasra, or other scriptures should be performed at a sacred site, as it is this Purusharan that will enable one's wishes to be fulfilled. In response to a tragedy, whether it is a natural calamity caused by another person or an illness, my disciples should always react in a manner that will best protect themselves and all others. They must never behave in any other way. My disciples should appropriately adapt their behavior, the manner in which they deal with other people, and the methods employed in the atonement of sins and have been committed. according to the particular situation, the place, time, age, means, social class, ability, etc.
You should all know the following. I promote the philosophy of Vishishtadvait. The abode I hold dear is Golok. Rendering services to the Lord in that abode, believing oneself to be Brahmarup, is considered by me to be the attainment of true salvation. All the rules stated previously are equally applicable to all my disciples. From here onwards, I shall recite the individual obligations of each category of disciple. The sons of my elder and younger brothers, Ayodhya Prasad and Raghuvir respectively, must never give guidance or initiation into the religion to any female who is not closely related to them. They must never touch or speak to unrelated women. They must never show cruelty to anyone. These acharya are forbidden to hoard money for other people. In social affairs, they must never act as a surety for anyone. If they fail upon hardship, they should beg for alms for their sustenance, but never seek or ask for loans or become in debt. If any disciple has given them grain as religious donations, it should never be sold. However, if it is old, it may be exchanged for new grain. Such exchanging is not considered selling. They must ceremoniously worship Ganpati on the 4th day of the bright half of Bhadrava month. On the 14th day of dark half of the Aso month, they must worship Hanumanji. I have established these acharya as the guru of all my disciples, so that they can act as protectors of the faith. They should give diksha, initiation into the faith, to all mumuksha, people who are seeking salvation. The acharya should give inspiration appropriately to all their followers so that they can uphold their respective responsibilities and rules of the religion. The acharya must maintain a great respect for all sadhu, and they must study the holy scriptures most reverently. They must perform rituals and ceremonies before the murti of the Lord, such as Lakshmi Narayan, whom I have installed in the big temples.
Anyone who approaches a temple of the Lord in search of food should be welcomed and suitably provided for according to the financial capacity of the acharya. They must establish schools and employ educated scholars to teach in them. The spreading of knowledge amongst the people at large is considered a very commendable deed. The wives of the acharya may initiate women into the religion according to the directions given by their husbands. They must never give initiation to men. The wives of the acharya must never touch, talk, or even show their faces to any man who is not closely related to them. My grihastha male disciples must never touch a widow except those who are close relations. My male grihastha disciples should never stay in solitude with their young mother, sister, or daughter, except if this is absolutely unavoidable. They must never give away their wife to another person for any reason. They must never associate with a woman who has involvement with the king. If unexpected guests arrive at their home, my grihastha disciples should welcome them and offer food, etc., in accordance to their means. Rites to the gods and to the ancestors should be performed appropriately. They must serve their parents, guru, and the sick throughout their lives in this best manner that they can. My disciples should engage in a suitable vocation depending on their abilities and their social class. Those who are engaged in agriculture must never castrate voles.
My Gruhastha disciples should ensure that they have sufficient funds and food for the future needs of their families. If they keep cattle, adequate fodder must also be set aside. My disciples may only keep cattle or horses if they have sufficient means to provide for them adequately with food and water. Otherwise, they're forbidden from keeping animals. Transactions regarding land or money should never be made without adequately witnessed documentation, even if they're dealing with their own sons or friends, etc. Financial arrangements, loans, exchanges, etc., which relate to marital issues should never be made just verbally. Written and witnessed agreements should always be made. All Gruhastha disciples must be aware that their spending should be in accordance to their own income. If expenditure exceeds their means, they will have to suffer hardship. They should keep track of their income and expenses. Each day, they should recall and clearly record all the transactions that they have made. 1/10 of all income should be offered to the Lord. If they are poor, my disciples may donate 1/20th of their earnings. This may be in the form of money or grain. My disciples must observe the rituals of Ekadashi and other religious fasting days according to the rules stipulated in the scriptures, depending on their own individual capacities. These observances are very important because they are a means by which wishes may be fulfilled. In the month of Shravan, my disciples should perform the worship of Mahadev using items of ceremony such as leaves of the bili tree. Alternatively, they may appoint another person to perform this ceremony on their behalf. A situation must never arise whereby my disciples owe money, etc. to their acharya or to the mandir. My disciples should never borrow utensils, ornaments, or material from the acharya or from the mandir for their own personal use.
My disciples should not accept food from anyone during their journeys to pay homage to the Lord, their guru, or to a sadhu. Similarly, whilst there, they must eat food brought from their own earnings. This is because these instances eating food from another person will deprive the merits gained from this pilgrimage. If any of my disciples employ workers, they must be paid in full with the amount that has previously been agreed. They must never be underpaid. When debts are settled, other people should be made aware that the amount owed has been repaid. Dealings with unscrupulous characters must be avoided. If their lives or properties are threatened by a misfortune, such as famine or terrorization from enemies or the king, my wise disciples should move away and migrate to another region where they can live in peace, even if it had been their birthplace or if they had lived there for many years. My disciples who are wealthy should instigate yagna, non-violent sacrificial ceremonies, to please the Lord. On special celebration days, they should offer food and alms to Brahman and Sadhu. My disciples who are wealthy should celebrate grand festivals in the Lord's Mandir, during which they should distribute alms and other offerings to deserving Brahman. My disciples who are kings must govern in accordance to the commands stated in the scriptures. They should regard each of their subjects as their own children and take care of them accordingly. Religion, morality should be established and maintained throughout their land. Kings should be familiar with all the different aspects of governing, such as creating and maintaining relevant policies, social decorum, etc. A good king should have the instincts to recognize a person's natures from their mannerisms and thus distinguish the wise, practical, and virtuous people from others. They should be able to determine who is guilty and who is innocent in judicial disputes. Married ladies must serve their husbands just as they would serve the Lord, even if their husbands are blind, ill, poor, or impotent. They must never utter an abusive word towards them.
Under normal circumstances, married ladies should not associate with young, handsome, or charismatic men.
Pativrata, virtuous ladies, must ensure that their navel, thighs, and chest are kept covered and are never visible to other men. They must keep their body fully clothed. They should never watch obscene shows or associate with shameless or immoral women. If their husbands are away for an extended period of time, they should stop wearing jewelry and expensive clothing. They should not visit other people's homes and should remain solemn during this period. Widowed ladies should serve and worship the Lord, just as they served their husbands when they were alive. They should remain under the guidance of their father, son, or other senior relatives, but should never contravene their directives and behave independently. My widow disciples must not touch or even speak unnecessarily to young men who are not closely related to them. For the same reasons as touching animals of either sex is not considered a sin, widows may touch baby boys because this is also not sinful. Under extenuating circumstances, they are allowed to touch and talk to older men. My widow disciples should never be taught or instructed by a man who is not closely related to them. Widowed ladies should keep a restraint on their bodies and senses by repeatedly fasting and observing other vows. If my widow disciples do not have sufficient funds to last them through their whole lives, they should not give donations even for religious purposes. If they have surplus funds, they may give donations. Widows should eat only one meal during the day and sleep on the floor. They must never look at birds or other animals that are engaged in coitus. Widows should always wear simple clothes and should never dress like a married lady. They should not dress like ascetic women. Their clothing should reflect like the customs and traditions of the place they're living and should be in accordance to their family traditions. My widow disciples should neither associate nor touch someone who performs abortions. They should never talk about men using sexual or sensual connotations. They must never listen to others who are talking about men in this way.
Widows should never remain in solitude with any young men, even with those who are closely related, unless there are extenuating circumstances. They must never take part in the holy festival of colors celebration. Widows should refrain from wearing jewelry or fine clothing embroidered with the gold thread, etc. Both married and widowed ladies must never bathe naked. They must never conceal the fact that they're having a menstrual period. During their menstrual periods, both married ladies and widows should not touch other people, clothes, etc. for 3 days. On the 4th day, they may resume normal activities after bathing. My disciples who are brahmachari must never talk to or intentionally look at women. They should never talk about or listen to others who are talking about ladies. They must never go to bathe where there could be ladies in the vicinity. Brahmachari must not touch or intentionally look at paintings, statues, or other images of females. These restrictions do not apply to the images of deities. Brahmachari are not allowed to draw, paint, or create any images of women. They should never touch any cloth which has been worn by a lady. Brahmachari must never look at birds or other animals that are engaged in coitus. My brahmachari disciples should not touch, glance at, or speak with a man who is disguised as a woman. They are not permitted to give religious sermons to ladies. Even a command from their guru should not be obeyed if it means that their vow of celibacy will be broken. Brahmacharis should always remain calm, patient, and humble.
If they see a woman impetuously coming within their vicinity, the brahmachari must stop her by speaking out or even by using forceful language, but they should never let the lady come near them. However, if a lady's or their own life is in danger, they should always do what is required so that both lives are saved. Under such extreme circumstances, brahmachari are permitted to speak and touch a lady. Brahmachari must not apply massage oils to their bodies. Their appearance must never incite fear into people, and they should never carry weapons. They must control their sense of taste. Brahmachari are only allowed to ask for alms at home of a Brahman where the distribution is done by men. If women are handling out the donation, they must go elsewhere. They should study the holy scriptures and faithfully serve their guru. They must avoid contact with effeminate men in the same manner as they avoid all association with women. My disciples of the Brahman class of society must never drink water that has become contaminated by contact with leather. They must not consume onions, garlic, or any other such food that the scriptures have prohibited. Before each meal, Brahman must bathe, offer a prayer to the Lord, recite the Gayatri mantra, and perform the ceremonial worship of Sri Vishnu. The rules of the brahmachari concerning abstinence with respect to women must also be obeyed by sadhu. They must gain full control of all their internal enemies. Sadhu must have full control and restraint of all their senses, especially their sense of taste and preference. They're forbidden to hoard money both themselves or through another person. They must never act as a surety for anyone. Sadhu must always display tolerance towards all. If they're living in an enclosed location, no lady should be allowed to enter that vicinity.
My sadhu must never travel unaccompanied at night or during the day. Only under the most exceptional of circumstances are they allowed to travel alone. Sadhu must not wear clothing, drape shawls, or use blankets that are expensive or dyed in various colors and patterns, even if the gifts are from another person. The only reason that they are permitted to go to a Gruhasta's home is to ask for alms or conduct a sermon. Sadhu should occupy themselves in performing the ninefold of bhakti to the Lord, but should not waste their time doing anything else. Only homes where men would be serving the cooked food and where there would be no possibility of having any contact with women. Sadhu may only go to such Gruhasta's home to dine. If this is not the case, they should ask for grain and cook it themselves. Having offered this food to the Lord, they may consume it. Bharat, the son of Rishabdev, lived upon the earth having total indifference to his own worldly needs with total dedication and devotion to the Lord. My sadhus should endeavor to live their lives according to these ideals. My brahmachari and sadhu disciples must never eat pan, flavored seeds and betel nuts, etc., wrapped in betel leaf, or consume opium or other narcotics, including tobacco. They must remain diligent to ensure that the consumption of these is completely avoided. Brahmachari and sadhu must never eat at feasts held during the performance of purification rites or at meals that are given as alms for 1 or 12 days after someone's death. Sadhu and brahmachari should not sleep during the day unless they are ill. They should refrain from gossiping about others or listening to others who are gossiping. They should not sleep on a bed unless they are very sick. Brahmachari and sadhu must always remain honest and should not show any kind of deception towards any other sadhu.
If anyone demonstrates cruelty towards them, either verbal or physical abuse, my sadhu and brahmachari must endure this malice, but they must never retaliate. They should forgive these cruel people and pray for their welfare. Not even a bad thought towards them should enter the minds of my brahmachari and sadhu disciples. Brahmachari and sadhu must never be deceitful or cunning in their actions. They must never be slanderous or spy on other people. They should not be arrogant or egotistic in the nature, and they must discard any affection toward their worldly relatives, family before they took vows as a sadhu. The rules for all that I have stated in this Shikshapatri are merely written in a concise form. Explanations for the reasons behind each of the slok should be sought from the other texts of my religion. I have collated and narrated the essence from all these scriptures in this Shikshapatri. By obeying these commands, all of one's wishes will be fulfilled. Therefore, all my disciples should always strictly abide by these rules, but never according to their own will. My disciples who live their lives according to this Shikshapatri will irrefutably attain 4 Purusharth. Those who disobey the commands of this Shikshapatri should be regarded as having no affiliation with my religion. All those in my religion must accept this. My disciples should recite this Shikshapatri on a daily basis. If they cannot read, they may listen to its recital. If there is nobody to narrate it to them, they must offer worship to the Shikshapatri every day. My words are my murti, divine form, itself, and therefore should be revered and respected with the utmost of importance. The Shikshapatri should only be given to the people who are aspiring to achieve spirituality, but never to those who have fiendish nature. I wrote this Shikshapatri on the 5th day of the bright half of the Maha month in the year 1882. Obeying its commands will lead to your salvation. May such a merciful Lord, Lord Swaminarayan, who destroys the pains of all his disciples, fulfill their wishes, and who protects the faith, bestow his divinity upon us all. Jai Shree Swaminarayan.